Appreciate you all being here. We're gonna go ahead and kick it off, and I'm just gonna go and try and like hammer through as many people as possible. How's it going, Chris? So what's your business? Go Global World.
Yeah, so without going too far into a rabbit hole here, I'm gonna just give you the question right off the bat, and then I'll layer it with the context. So you being, you've gone through so much, and you exemplify patience in a way that I wish me and a whole lot of other people have. So first, how do you apply patience in an organization and in your personal life when you're going from one KPI or milestone to another? Context. I'm balancing a lot right now. I help operate the startup Go Global World. First of all, it is an AI investor to matching startup and vice versa, investor to startup founder. So they can go off and do what they need to do and come back, because that's one less sales call they can do. That's one less all that stuff they can do, and
Wow.
then everything will be good. And we have worldwide customers. Things are going well. LTV to CAC's fine, and I'm learning this over the past few months. Then I have TVA, Texas Venture Alliance. It's a nonprofit in Texas that we're basically just trying to make an ecosystem. People don't know what's going on in San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas. Austin is kind of messy, but we're trying to fix that. And on top of all that, I'm messing with a little bit of angel investing and all of this because I kind of stumbled upon this, but trying to get back into the venture capital space. And it looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel, Q4. I'm just trying to do a good job, do right by people. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't want to be doing the operator thing forever. I want to do good, leave things better than where I found them. But it's just the whole patience thing. And I think this is something that we all kind of encounter in life, because I don't want to do this out of like making a lot of money. I see like the gap in startup founders and underrepresented women, people of color. I just want to get back in that space and work there for a while. So I'm not sure if I went in a rabbit hole, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's kind of making me 27 feeling like I'm 47. I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, because like the first thing I was thinking as I was like, fuck, I mean, like the more you have going on, the more patient you have to be, because it's a lot harder to do multiple things at once. It's like they kind of all go slower. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I
Feel like
guess, oh, sorry.
you have like a priority of like order of operations of these things, or do you view them more as like being symbiotic?
Wow. Thank you for asking a hard question. I kind of feel like that I need to, because if it's not one thing, I'm flipping over to the other and back and forth and back and forth. And I think now that you kind of layer that to me, that might be kind of I want to use the word anxiety. I think, but
Fucking anxious too.
yeah, a little bit about me. Like I was in the military for 5 years and I never got anxious, but here I am now kind of feeling that way. Yeah.
Dude, that's actually really common though. I've worked with tons of people from the military and they're like, I don't know why I'm stressed in business. There was like people dying. And I'm like, it's a different context. So I think give yourself a break there. I guess I understand what your question was about the patients. I just am more interested in like, you have so many things going on. Why?
Yeah, so it kind of started out with Go Global. I started out as like one of their like content creators, because their literal customer base is family offices, investor startups. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll go, I'll run their daily podcast, meet with them and stuff. And yeah, maybe I'll just get plugged in with the firm. And then it turned into, hey, while you're interviewing, doing all this stuff, why don't you go come get some operator experience? And then I said yes. And, me not knowing at the time what was that going to entail, maybe I was a little bit of a yes man, but I don't regret it. I'm learning a lot. And I feel like that makes me look more favorable on top of the people. I just feel like I say yes a lot. Like even last week, there was a firm that came up to me, hey, help us raise some family office money. I'm like, all right, let's crush the internal rate of return. Let's effing get it. And now I'm stressing out about that too.
Yeah, I feel like we've got to say no. Did you see Alex's video recently on that?
I did, and I need to actually apply some of that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I relish in saying no because it has served me so many times in my life, because I have seen, and I've just played it out, and you can learn from what I have seen rather than experience it yourself, that like every single person that they may have in the short term, because they took on multiple opportunities or more opportunities, what seemed like a lot of things at once, they might have, leveled up faster than me. But because I've stayed focused, the thing that I have been able to build every time has been sustainable. Therefore, it's never had to break at different, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so what happens when you spread your attention like that is like it's going to grow much slower in the long run, maybe not in the short run. You know what I mean? So I guess the question for you is what's the end goal that you have?
Oh
Because I
yeah.
think if things are not contributing to the greater goal, and maybe you don't have a greater goal, which is totally fine, but I think then if we don't have one, let's design one. If we do have one, let's not do anything that doesn't lead to it. Here's an example for you, right? It's like I've had people and they're like, you'd be really good at doing this though, like a thing, right? Like a business or something. And I'm like, right, I'd also be really good at running a gas station and I don't do it. And so it's like you might be really great at all the things you're doing right now. Does that mean that you should do all of those things?
Yeah,
And so
I
it's
totally get
really
what you're
like,
saying.
yeah. Do you have a goal right now with all the things that you have going on? Because it sounds like you expressed that one thing, but that's not, is that tied to every single thing you're doing? And even if it is, should you still be doing all of them at once?
That's yeah. So to answer your first question, yes, and I look at it, I plan forward, and then I do a lot of backwards planning. So far so good. I mean, this time in quarter four, actually there's a really good CVC that I've been in contact with, Bain and Company. You've
Hmm.
probably heard of them, and yeah, I got a good relationship with them, and get so the end goal, get back into the VC associate role.
Everyone can be really great at something if they focus on that one thing. And I think I would just cut any of those side quests. I would not focus on anything else. And then the question won't be how am I going to be more patient? Because a lot of the times we need patience because things are moving slow because we spread our attention. And like, yes, you're going to still have to be patient because everyone wants more, faster, better now, but it'll be easier than this, which is like stressful patience. I think the best thing for you to do is to figure out what is the one thing that is going to get you on track to the goal that you have. And then I would cut everything else. Based on the goals that you have, each of those opportunities, how's it going to benefit you now, later, and way later?
You too.
DM me and let me know what you decide. I want to know.
So my question to you, little backstory. So my senior year of high school, I worked in property management. I saw an opportunity in the junk removal business. So I quit my property management job, graduated high school, started a junk removal business, did about 30 to 40K. Our books weren't very clean back then, probably the first summer. And then January, we opened a new location back up in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee again. So we have two locations now, one here in Tampa, one in Wisconsin. How do I know when it's the right time to franchise? That's really what I want to do with the business. And how do I not only attract the right talent to franchise, but how do I get people to take me seriously as an 18-year-old franchising, probably 19, 20 at the time when I do franchise?
So why do you want to franchise and not just do corporate owned?
I think there's just a higher cap on franchising. Ultimately, I think corporately owned, I think I could corporately own a lot of them, but maybe like 5 to 10 would be like really a lot, I feel like, compared to franchising where I think we could do hundreds.
I would usually just ask you questions, but like I'm not a fan of you franchising anytime soon. And here's the reason why is because people often just want to get like enough so they can franchise, but those franchises are not the ones that do well in the long run. They're a flash in the pan and then they go poof and then they're gone because the reputation is bad. So like you need to have maximize the opportunity you have now, have the unit economics down, maximize the margin as much as possible, figure out what's your value prop as corporate, like as headquarters. Like, are you going to help do the marketing for them? Are you going to help facilitate sales for them? Like, what do you do versus what do they do? And what's the value prop to the person coming in? And then you have to understand, like, what's your, I guess, like target audience? Are you looking for like an investor? Are you looking for an actual operator? Those are the things that you have to think through with the franchising. The people that I know that have been the absolute most successful with franchising have had like 10 locations of their own first. And in much more simple businesses than yours. I think this is like a little more, I wonder if it would be more of an investor type business. But, and then the second thing to think to that is, Logan, like you're going to make less money on your franchised locations than you're going to make on your corporate owned locations. Why do you think that you could only have 5 to 10 corporate owned?
I think there's a lot of, you want to have the local feel kind of to the business. So ideally, our franchisees would be operators as well to start. And I think if we were to privately own all of them, we'd have to kind of have a call center, I think. And I think it would just be a lot of friction, really, where you're not able to see what's going on. Because if we're across the whole U.S., and I'm struggling to kind of find other companies who have privately owned a lot of locations. I also think franchising would be good because, let's say, just rough numbers. Let's say we took 10% revenue. Right now we're doing 25% margins, maybe 20% margins. It's like just a lot simpler, I think, to franchise out the exact model, because we have what works. We know what works with marketing. We know what works with our sales process on the phone. We know how to get jobs scheduled. Our scheduling systems are really good. So I think that system is very scalable. So I want to
I
just.
see why it's a win for you, but why is it a win for them if you take 10% and the margin's only 20? You know what I mean?
I think they could get high revenue numbers pretty quickly. I think year one they could really be up there with revenue numbers. So still working out all the kinks, obviously, and stuff, but.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I just, the thing is that so many franchises benefit the franchisor and not the franchisees. And they end up working well for you, but then they don't end up working well for them. And then eventually one day they have a mutiny or they're just shit. And then they don't sell for a high multiple, or if they even sell at all. And so that's what I don't want for you. And so that's the reason I'm asking this, because in my eyes, I'm like, well, I would just go, those people that you think could start the franchise, I would just go bring them in Chick-fil-A style as operators. I would hire them, and then their job is to build out the entire thing. I hand them the playbook like I would have handed a franchisee. I pay them a salary. That's a high, good salary. It's say a rev share / a profit share. I put them on a plan like that. And then I would run that model, because you'll make more money from it. They'll be very delighted to have a high paying job where they have autonomy, and it makes it, you could scale it just like you could scale a franchise. It's just a different structure. Plus you don't have all the litigation, or I'm sorry, not the litigation, but like all the legal that surrounds a franchise that you would have to go through that would slow you down. So I don't know. I would think about the two models, just because, like, dude, I know so many people who own franchises and their corporate owned locations always beat their franchise locations. And half the time they end up scaling back the franchise to build up the corporate locations because they're not making the money that they thought they would. I know some people very high up in the franchising space that know some of the biggest ones in the world, and they're like, yeah, franchising, not the way to go. So I'm not just saying this as somebody, I'm like, not biased. I'm like, I have a lot of industry experts that I'm friends with, and I'm just not as big of a fan. And so I would say, like, get yourself to 10 locations and then decide, do you want a franchise or do you want a corporate own? Gotcha. I think that I would make that the benchmark no matter what.
Sounds good.
Congratulations. Fucking cool that you're doing this at your age. Like, really badass. You don't sound like you're not 20 yet. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Awesome.
Cool.
Sweet. Thank you, Larry.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I feel really grateful to be on the show today. My question was, what's the difference between sort of going above and beyond for your client and getting taken advantage of, especially when you're doing under 10K a month? For context, I'm a video editor. I have one client that pays $5,000 a month, and I feel like I can always put in like more time to make the videos better or spend more money on a better laptop and stuff like that. But the more I do that, the less money and time I have to kind of take care of and invest in myself.
What was the expectation at the beginning of the relationship?
Yeah. So at first I told him I would do 3 20-minute YouTube videos a week and 5 shorts. Based on the last job I had, I figured if I invested that much time into working with this client, I could probably get that done. And as we went on, he had a hard time knowing how long the video would be, like while he's recording it. So he'd send me like a lot longer videos and podcasts and stuff like that. And I kind of just said, yes, I'll do that. Because I didn't want to lose him. I wanted to make him happy and stuff like that. And then the more I thought about it, kind of learning about setting expectations and that kind of thing. If the expectations are kind of changing, it doesn't really matter how much time or effort I put into this. So we changed it now, and where I just work 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and just whatever gets done, gets done.
We basically renegotiated, but now you have a job. But what was the goal when you got this person in the first place? Was it to start your own business? Was it to consult?
So my last job, I felt I wasn't really improving or learning anything new. So with this one, it was to make at least like $4,000 a month, work remote, have a good culture, and be learning some kind of skill that compounds, like sales or video editing, something along those lines. I'll work on the videos and I'd be like, dang, if my laptop was faster, I could do better. Or if I bought this course, I could make him happier. But he's happy right now. So it's like, should I invest more and more in like making his results even better, or should I save up? Because my goal right now is to save up 6 months of living expenses plus $10,000 for a course I want to buy. I guess like,
the course for video editing.
it's on starting an agency. So
Okay, he
I
won't
guess
pay for
I
that.
don't. You wouldn't do that? Okay. Yeah. I guess I was really excited about it a while ago, but I was like, don't pull the trigger, just like wait. And I guess my excitement for that's waned a little bit, but just it's more of like a backup, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Should you reinvest in yourself? Yes. But like the way I look at it is like if somebody is on my team and they want to reinvest in themselves, then like why should they have skin in the game? Yes, but that's divorced from should they pay for it. If I'm going to benefit from it greatly in the next however many years, then I have no problem paying for it as long as they have skin in the game of some sort. So like, something that you could do is say, I need a new laptop, and then break down the case for him of how much more you can do in those 8 hours every day with that laptop. Do the work for him so he doesn't have to think through it of how much better it's going to be with that laptop. Because I actually can tell you, when we started our team and we brought on editors, they were like, we need new laptops. I was like, why? It's a great, like, I don't get it. It's a great laptop, and then they're like, here's how much time we'll save. And I was like, oh, it'll save time, which then they tie to money, which then makes sense to me. So I think if you could make that argument to him, I don't see why you couldn't say like, can you get this laptop? And then as long as I work here, I can use the laptop.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of building the sales argument around it, and maybe this is nitty gritty.
The worst thing that happens is he says no.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think, and even with like, if there's courses that you see that are going to make you better at what you're doing, like there's nothing wrong with bringing that and being like, I was really interested in this course. Is this something you would be willing to pay for? Here's why I wanted it. Here's why it would increase my skill set. I respect people who do that on my team. And I really think it's admirable because I love that they're investing in themselves. So, I don't know this person obviously, but I think it's definitely worth you bringing it to them. They can have the course, for example, you can make the login under their email or a company email. So then other people in the company can use it too. And it can become training that you can help for other people on the team. I mean, it doesn't need to be just for you. And if you're only going to be there 12 months, you could say, this is how I'm going to train the person after me. I'll help train that person before I leave.
I had a quick follow-up question also sort of about business boundaries. Like if my client gets a lot of views, but they still don't necessarily make money from that, how do I help them if I've never owned a business exactly like theirs? I guess like how much responsibility of their business should I take on?
It's a tough one. This is why some agencies have tough times. And so do consultants on the marketing side, is because the client believes if I get more views, I get more customers. But that's not true. In fact, some people with less views get more customers because they have deeper content that's niche and it speaks to the right audience. So I think this is an education gap, and it's an opportunity for you to also position yourself as an expert by educating them on what is better for their business. So when I think of sales, I just think of telling the truth, which is like, if somebody comes on and they're like, I want views, be like, okay, do you know what views mean? They don't mean more sales. In fact, sometimes we see, and educating them on the difference in that. So when these people are coming to you, they don't know that views don't mean sales. And so I would just say you have to educate them on that and explain to them that there are a million other things that equate to making more sales. That's what I would do, in my opinion, because I think it positions you as an expert, it builds trust, and you're more likely to set up better expectations because then they understand this isn't the only thing I am going to have to do to make more sales. I'm going to have to get this person to get more views. Then I'm going to have to get somebody to qualify those views. Then I'm going to have to build the funnel to funnel all the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like it's not just views equal money. They have to have a good offer and follow up with leads and that kind of thing.
Right. And the thing is like most people end up like being this like hodgepodge type of service because they just say, oh, well, you know what? A common one is they do sales for a business and they say, I do sales for this business, but now I've got to do marketing because their marketing sucks and it's affecting the sales. And then they're like, actually, you know what? The product sucks too. So I've got to take over the product and run. What? Now you're running the whole business. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no amount of money someone can pay you to do that well.
Yeah.
So stick with your lane and educate them on all the components outside of your lane that are going to affect it.
That's super helpful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, really grateful to be on the show.
Cool. All right, Andrew. Well, have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
See ya. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hello. This is so weird. I watch you all the time and now I'm like actually here. That's totally cool. So we do Amazon advertising management. So it's like pay-per-click management kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I hired somebody who is an A player who can be client facing. I'm like, okay, now I know what an A player looks like. Now I know how much she takes off my plate. And she actually came in for another position, was interested in doing the management, rose up to be like one of my best people who I can throw anything at her. So I was like, okay, I can either try and find talent and try and find somebody who not only has talent, but is an A player, but it's super in demand right now. Cost of those people is really high, as it should be. Or I could try and look for A players and then realize the skill, a lot of it's mathematics. If you get it, you get it. It's just navigating the thing and then navigating the client. So I'm thinking now what I probably would rather do is just build like a really solid internal training. And at some level, I know it's kind of like a course. The thing is, I know the industry really well. So I'm like so deep in it. So it's not like I need to build out, okay, you know, the basics. I'm thinking now I need to build A to Z, know nothing to Rockstar gets the whole thing. And I kind of am staring that down going, what does that look like? Or is there touch points along the way? What should I be thinking about if I'm thinking, okay, I want to have this system here that I could bring people through with minimal, I know there needs to be involvement, but I guess I'm facing down this thing that I'm not sure what it looks like. So I was just curious on your advice on that.
Yeah. So I think of it two different ways, which is there's giving them context, right? And then there's training them on the skills. And so giving them context is like, what's the context that they need to understand about the business to be successful in the role? So like within Gym Launch, when we had that company, and within many companies, you know, that means that they're going to have to go through like basically sitting in and pretending that they're a client. So in order for someone to best support a client, oftentimes you want to put them through the entire journey of a client so that they have context as to where they help that person. And then what happens before, what happens after. So one of the first things that you can do is give them access to all the same materials a client would be seeing or experiencing, and then put them through the client journey as much as possible, having them sit in on a sales call, marketing call, like the whole thing. I know it sounds like it might be a little overboard. I swear to God, like, don't regret it. It really does work really well. The second piece is skills. So the best thing that you can do in terms of training somebody is I actually, you know, I think a lot of people explain strategy first and then the tactics. But sometimes with roles like this, it actually helps to teach step-by-step tactics. And then they are going to see for themselves why it's working. And then you start to bring in the strategy of why it works. So I would actually be doing two things. So one, when I build trainings like this out, I recruit my best teammates, like the one that you described, to help me build the training, because I don't want to build the training for someone to be mediocre. And guess what? I'm also not doing the job, right? I know the industry, I know the job well enough, but I'm not the one doing it. And so most of the time what I've done is brought someone internally to help me build the training. And then I looked at, okay, what base level skills did they have versus did they not have? And then start building it out from there for the criteria. And so for somebody of this nature, right, like base level skills are things like, you know, teaching them to be on time, teaching them to smile on calls, teaching them to how they speak to a client, you know, giving them scripts, right? Telling them be 2 minutes early to a call, telling them, you know, check the client accounts daily, things like that, versus the skills of like clicking the buttons and placing the ads and doing those things. I would build, and what we did for this is like they were built into SOPs with videos embedded into them, so that basically people could almost like if you see like software Q&A, like where you go to yeah, it was similar to build out to that. So it's like it is both video and written. And then what we would do is basically at the end of, say, like a module, because we take all the skills and then kind of chunk them up, right? Like what are the phases that they need to learn? Maybe it's first it's targeting, and then it's, you know, placing an ad, and then it's, you know, scaling the ad, whatever that may be, right? And then you're going to have a quiz at the bottom of each one. And so you want to quiz them out. So this is where you can be less involved and you can still help them self-evaluate, because what you want, Elizabeth, is you want them to self-evaluate their progress. So have them take a test, and then it basically, they have to continue going through the module and taking the test until they're able to pass it at 100%. And then they can move on to the next one.
Cool.
Awesome, Elizabeth. Appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on. Have a good Friday.
Thanks. You too.
What's up, Peter?
Sweet. What's going on? Just start my life insurance business. We do like burial insurance for seniors. And basically, I'm at a point now where all I know is sales and people are coming to work with me to sell. I'm selling every day with my team, but I want to remove myself. And I'm like, shit, how am I going to lead my team effectively? I'm 24 years old. I have 40-year-olds working for me. If I don't sell, if I don't show them what's possible, how do I gain respect from those people? And ultimately, we're on a mission to change the industry, and it's actually going pretty well.
A frame switch that I would give you is, rather than comparing yourself to like Kobe or someone on the court, like you've got to compare yourself to like John Wooden, like the coach. And the coach never gets on the court when the game's on the line, right? And so it's just a different skill set that you have to switch to. Now, I guess the question is, why do you think that they would respect you less, given that you have a track record of being successful in sales?
Yeah, and I guess it's like personally, I'm like, damn, like I've spent 6-7 months in this industry proving and having like numbers like this can be done, guys. I expect you to see that this is possible. Cause like everyone out there, like there's people are like literally losing their houses and shit. And they're like I'm like 40 years old. I've been promised to make $300,000. Can I work for you? And I'm like, I just want to show you what's possible because I can share with you guys. And then the moment I stop selling to like lead my team, I'm like, damn, like maybe it's like my insecurity, like I need that hit from sales because I'm selling every day. I'm like, this feels really good. But I know deep down I need to remove myself from that sales floor. And it's like one of the hardest things that I'm personally going through. And I don't know if that's normal or not, but
Dude, it's 100% normal. So I made a video about this about 2.5 years ago and it was basically like the reason why your top sales rep isn't often your sales manager, but I actually don't think that's true anymore. So what it really is that in sales, you're getting positive like reinforcement constantly on a daily basis. It's like you're getting hits of dopamine. Yeah. People are saying, great job. Your audience is telling you that you're doing a great job. So like you have been constantly reinforced for making sales. Mm-hmm. Now, when you go to coaching people to make sales and leading your team, it takes a more strategic, intelligent person to do that because the reward is delayed. And not just by a day or 2 days, but by weeks and months. And so developing people, which is now what you're moving into doing, does not have an instant reward. There's no instant gratification for it. It is over time, you start seeing people do better and then a little better. The fruits of your labor you see in years, not in months, right? When somebody's like, they go from like, they were good at sales, like they're a new person with a new house and a family 2 years later. And so the thing that you have to figure out is the reason that people are able to do it is because they find something else that gives them reward. So the question is, how are you, Peter, going to get reward in the meantime? I wrote this the other day, but patience is just figuring out what to do in the meantime until you hit the goal.
Cool.
And so the question is, what are you going to do in the meantime rather than get the hit from sales? You need something else that can give you that reinforcement. What's it going to be? And you just need to, like, honestly, I know it sounds insane, distract yourself from not selling with something else that can give you intermittent feedback. Like, yes, you're going to get the thing in 2 years where you've built this amazing team of people, but what can you get in the short term that can distract you from not doing the sales anymore? Work with what you've got. We need to be distracted sometimes.
And I was thinking, like, when it comes to that, the A-player talent is what we're looking for. Just to give you context, in the last month, I had 674 people apply to work with me, and we only hired 2. So, like, my thing is, how do you go through that cycle of, like, weeding out all that? Like, we have almost like acquisition.com. Like, you go through all these funnels. Like, do you just keep doing more and just expecting better is like just that right person to come along, or you just kind of just deal at the marketplace is this filled with bad sales? I guess maybe that's a belief. Bad sales, people that aren't trained or experienced.
I mean, if your strategy is to hire people who are already great salespeople, you're going to be doing, like, you're going to be throwing out a ton, and you're going to feel like, is this wasting? Am I crazy? Like, this feels ridiculous. The other alternative is that you get good at training people from the ground up. But I say you start with one and then add in the other later. Like, I think that in past companies, I started with training people from the ground up because I didn't have a brand or reputation to attract top talent. And then once we had enough means that I could attract top talent with pay, then I learned how to go out and find top talent. And then I had the pay to actually give them when they were able to come through the funnel. So for you, if you've already been getting A players, unless there's a problem that I don't see, I would just keep doing that. But is there something like a constraint?
It's more of the people that come in. It's like we're doing telesales, so it's telesales only. A lot of people come in where they're doing face-to-face sales, or that's like we need someone experienced in the industry, like you guys talk about skills and someone with experience. So that's the only constraint I'd see.
How many sales reps do you need
If
coming through the funnel?
Well, we're on track to do like 1 million this year, and we have 4 in revenue. So just because our margins are so high in our business, we're not here to, like every other business in this insurance has like 600 recruits. We only need like 100 to do like 5. I'm sorry, we only need 10 to do like 5 million. So it's like we don't need a lot. We just need savages, and that's all we're looking for, like really, really high talent.
I might keep going at it a little bit longer, trying to attract that talent.
Okay.
And just get better at what you don't want and being verbal about that in your messaging. Because I know for us, for example, like we get a shit ton of deal flow, but like there's a lot of deal flow that doesn't fit. And something that we were talking about the other day, and I made in my new videos, is like, I wanted to talk about like, what do we not work with? You know, and so I think for you to do the same would be really useful, because I think that sometimes people hear what you want, but a lot of times you kind of also need to say what you don't want.
Yeah.
So it's like attract what you want, repel what you don't want. Maybe you have less coming through the funnel, but they're higher qualified.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
Talk
I guess
the people who you want are also more attracted to you for saying that. Because they're like, oh yeah, I don't like those sales reps that are like that anyways.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this is so awesome. I appreciate it. I guess the last thing I'll let you run here is like my thing being insecure is like 24. Like people are coming in, they have families and feed, and like we're jumping in, we're helping them make like 3 to 4 times off the jump in their first month. But like I'm like insecure, I'm like, damn, like I know what we're doing, and I'm like, shit, am I like, I want to help these people win so bad, and like I want my team to win. I'm like, am I not paying them enough? And that's like the insecure. I'm like could I financially compensate that, but also have the video of like, how do you know when you're overpaying or underpaying? I know that you've talked about that.
Typically in the beginning of a business, I do see that owners feel like guilty, feeling like I don't know if I'm paying people enough. And the reason is you have not yet put in all the rest of the infrastructure you need to continue to grow. So you have more excess cash than you're going to have in a year and 2 years. But if you pay people now based on the cash you have available now, you screw yourself in 2 and 3 and 4 years. And this is where so many companies come to us and they have overpaid people. And now what it means is you need to overpay everyone else who comes in your company. But then margins start to go down, because over time, that's what happens in almost all companies, is margins start to go down as you gain scale. So like absolute margin, yes, it's up, but actual marginal percentage is down. Do not feel guilty. I do not think, like, you can always pay people more. It is very hard to go and say, I'm going to pay you less now.
Okay, cool.
So get a little more traction in. I wouldn't worry about that right now if it's not a problem, and then revisit it once you have some more infrastructure in place.
Cool. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Have a good Friday.
Bye-bye.
What's up, Sam?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Just to give some context before I flow into the question, my background's in sales. I've had a relatively successful career there, built my comms up to 100K a month, basically off the philosophies from $100 million offers. So you probably guys might know who I was working with at the time. So thank you for that book. And I'm currently assessing my options when it comes to transitioning into business, which I've learned they're 2 very different games between just being a sales operator and business. So my question is, given this situation, from your experience, what transition path would make the most sense to you? And what idea vetting processes would you go through to determine whether a business model or idea is going to be worth the time or financial investment?
Well, the first place I would start, rather than the product, is I would start with 2 things, which is, what does Sam want to do every day? Like, what could Sam do every day and not get stressed out, not get burnt out, not feel like, is there something that you can identify that you would want to do every day for, let's say, 5 to 7 years? And then, is there something that you want to do every day for the next 5 to 7 years that you are also really good at? Is there something that comes to mind?
I like the RevOps side of things in terms of, I like writing, I like analyzing data, understanding numbers. Like, I don't mind, like, obviously the sales side of things is good when you're in the right vehicle, but spending all day, every day talking to people is not necessarily something that juices me for the long term. I like looking at data and numbers and identifying bottlenecks and things like that.
if that's your objective and that's the kind of business you want, then it's really how do you create something that creates cash flow that takes the least amount of your time. So it's more of a lifestyle business, which I'll be frank, like I've not done that before, but I can figure that out, right? So
Yeah.
the issue right now is that you are the delivery. So you're doing the consulting and you are the delivery. In my opinion, the way that you one up this is you figure out how to get, and I wouldn't say you do it for equity, because the thing is with equity, because it's long term, it's kind of like marrying somebody because because they're good in bed. It's like, okay, that's one of the like 10 things you need for marriage. It's like sales is one of the 10 things you need for a business. And then once that thing's fixed, and then they're like, why the fuck are you still here? Which is what we tell people when they come to us.
Yeah.
They're like, we want you to help with this. I'm like, no. We help you with the whole thing, not just one thing. So I think that's a good idea. I would think to myself, the one skill that I think that you need is to be able to recruit people below you to maybe take over doing that skill for you. And then you create a better, more value-centric way of monetizing that skill below you. So if you could build out a team of, say, like a couple, you wouldn't even need that many, of consultants that can do what you did for the last few years, and then create a better way to monetize those consultants, then that could free you up to do those things on the side. So that helps a lot for me, just given the context you gave of this doesn't need to be some huge enterprise. It's something that you want to take cash flow so you can put it into other things you like. Does that make sense? Because that's a skill I feel like is missing, because you're thinking with like, what is Sam going to do to make money rather than what is Sam going to build to make money?
Yeah, that's a good mindset shift. So it's essentially looking at areas of building leverage in versus, because that has been the biggest constraint, is the only lever I have to pull on is time at the moment. Building a structure that has a different lever that I can pull on that can still produce the cash flow.
Exactly. So the skill gap that you have right now is it's two things. One, how do I get those people? How do I attract those people or train them and put them below me so that they can do what I've been doing? And then the second piece is you just got to figure out the monetization for that, which is like, what is an equitable compensation for building out a sales function in someone's business or managing the sales function? And for that piece, I'll just give you this nugget, which is you want to find the value metric. So for any company, when you want to price, you want to find what is the closest value metric that I can price on. So an example of that is that when we built Allen, we could have just said, pay us $100 per month for the software and you get to use it and leads come in your door. But instead we said, okay, what's the closest metric to value that the customer gets? It's somebody walking in the door, right? Because the whole point of using the software is to get someone to walk in your door. So we build them on shows. How many people showed to their appointment was what we build on. And now that was complex on its own because it's software and it used AI to predict who's going to show. But if you get what I'm saying, so what's the closest metric to that? It would probably be, sales closed. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense to do equity because that's like the whole fucking business. It makes sense like how many sales are closed or, total revenue generated from the sales or collected revenue, even that, because if you're billing on just revenue as a whole and they're not collecting on all of it, then there's going to be discrepancy. They're not going to feel good about it. So I would say closed sales or total revenue collected would be like the best metric you could bill on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And especially focusing on that conversion mechanism, conversion percentage at the end has been, especially using the philosophies in $100 million offer, etc. Like you see huge conversion rates when you actually implement that system fully. So yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess it's just building the mechanism, right, as the last step and making that full transition.
You just need to get a couple big wins. So get, 2 people under you to train up on what you've been doing, hit it out of the park for a couple, I would say, of the accounts or people that are coming to you. And there's not much more you're going to need to do from there to generate the revenue you need to. If you get sizable companies that you can do a rev split on or bill on the, total collected, like do a rev share off that, like you don't need that much of that to make the cash flow to then put into the other things to get them going enough to give you that lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for that mindset shift. I just need to get out of that hands-on me do everything mentality and build something that enables other people to to operate.
I agree.
Um,
Like, build the machine, don't be the machine.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate the question, and I hope you have a good rest of your Friday. Hi.
Hi. So I'm a therapist and coach, and I help leaders and visionaries clear the stubborn blocks that are in the way of them reaching their next level in their business and life. And I have loved what I've been doing. I've been doing it for 20 years. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and it's amazing. But I'm turning 50 this year, and I'm kind of burning out on the one-on-one thing. And I'm also looking at retirement and really wanting to set myself up more financially. I'm just not sure like what kind of a product or what kind of a route would make the most sense to build the most wealth in my business, but also not have me married to, having to do all of the service delivery all the time.
How do you currently acquire customers?
JV partnerships and referrals.
Oh, interesting. So what are the JV partnerships?
So I'll typically do a launch and then have affiliates for like during my launch, and that will bring in new people.
Okay, cool. So how much, like in terms of, do you do 100% of the coaching right now, or what does your employee look like? Do you have employees? Is it just vendors and affiliates?
Yeah, it's just vendors and affiliates. I've even tried multiple times to like build out my team by getting a VA, and I just haven't hired well. After listening to you, I feel more equipped to hire someone better, but I'm just like having trouble getting out of the solopreneur thing.
Yeah.
And I just started an awesome program that I'm doing with a colleague of mine. She's the president of a large tech firm, and we are co-leading a program, and then that will move into a membership. So this is the first time I've like collaborated on something, but really it's just, so she'll be part delivering, but really it's just me for my business.
Got it. And then is the delivery on that, is it a membership backend type deal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, I think that there's a couple of different ways you can look at it. The one thing I'll say is this: if you want to set yourself up for retirement, then I think that you would want to commit to putting a few more years in of work now to set yourself up for that.
Definitely.
The reason being, okay, cool. Just want to be on the same page. I was like, I don't think we got 12 months. I think it's going to take a little longer.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's really two routes that you can go when it comes to this kind of model that I've seen be successful with therapists and I would say coaches. One, there's like you build a product. Typically it starts niched in terms of like, what are you absolutely best at coaching people on? And then you kind of expand from there. So you have like different categories, right? Like I know somebody, it's like they have like, being overweight, drinking, smoking, like it's like and then they keep adding on things like products to their back end. And you start it like that, where like basically you are the face, you're driving people into a membership program that has those on the back end. And then you don't have any one-on-one of any sort. You just have, I would say, like group facilitators that host, I would say, sessions where people who have bought the product can attend and they can ask questions. They can like help troubleshoot along the way. I have seen that as one model. Now, the other model that I've seen is scaling coaches. This, I think, is much harder. I do think that if done well, is a very, ethical product, but it is hard to scale because essentially what you have to get really good at is if you wanted to just get a bunch of mini Lexis in there, then you have to get really good at recruiting and training coaches.
Yeah.
Because typically, and usually what that involves is the model that I've seen work well is that you actually put out a, say whatever, you build some name, right? You have a certification where you basically teach people how to do what you do. And then from that pool of coaches that complete the certification, which is like a membership, but not for clients, it's for coaches. You take the ones that are like the highest performers and then you job offer them to be a coach. That has more complexity, though you can obviously charge people more for it because it provides more value because they have a one-on-one coach. So if I were you, just based on where you're at right now, I might say the least risky option to start with is the first option where you build that back end. So that's basically saying like, what are all of the, I would say like when somebody comes to you and they need help, what is the problem that they have? And I would actually think of it more like putting problem buckets and then organizing those in a manner that would create a membership backend. Because really what you're doing is you're helping people solve their problems in many ways, right? And so I would say, what are those things? And those all become little mini products that then lead to like a big library of products that you can sell people in to the membership of. That's probably the route that I would go first, because I think it's a lot less complex and it's less to manage. You know what I mean?
Very cool. Thank you. This is so helpful. I'm wishing you and Alex both really well with everything.
Thank you, Lexi.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hope you guys have a good weekend.